I think I've been awake a little bit too long this morning.
Oh, is this an accidental oven update?
No, but I have made a what I would only call a schoolboy error. There's a thing that happens when you're playing sports. When I was playing sports, I used to have a really good double-handed backhand. That means something to you, doesn't it?
No, not at all, but let's pretend it does.
So instead of using one hand, I use two hands on the racket.
Yeah, I mean...
Think Bjorn Borg.
We'll pretend I care. Let's just move on.
No, it's not about caring or not. Anyway, I used to have let's say, a wicked two-handed backhand. Like I really was. It was a real weapon. And then a coach who will remain nameless decided that it would be better if I had a one-handed backhand.
So hang about. A coach who saw that you were good at something that was doing a good job decided to stop you being good at something. Okay.
No, thought that I would be better at this thing.
Despite the fact that you were really quite good at it using two hands.
Yeah. And my backhand never recovered. Like it was never bad, but it was never the weapon it was. So I basically I was overcoached in that. Anyway,
did you ever choose to just go back to using two hands?
Well,
or were you not allowed to do that?
Yeah, I could definitely. And this was doing in the off season. This is the point of the story is related to bread, but we'll get there.
I understand that, but I'm quite interested now. Having started with not being interested in a two-handed backhand, now I'm fascinated.
Yes, I thought I'd just dangle that little hook for you, that little sporting hook. Or is it a hook of sport? Anyway,
it's the way to get me invested.
Because it's about learning, teaching, and learning.
Exactly.
You're a teacher and learner, aren't you?
I do both of those things.
Just as a little aside, I had a complaint from a friend who listens to midlifing, and who said, ahead. "I feel like I'm in a really good friendship with you, except you know nothing about what's going on in my life." It feels really intimate. It feels rich. It feels, it's really great. It's the conversations are amazing, but fuck you.
And then you have a conversation with them in real life, and you're like, "So tell me what's happening." "How dare you? I've been paying attention to your life. Why have you not been?" Wait a minute. I don't broadcast my life.
And yeah, that's a very common experience. Oh yeah, you already know that about me, don't you? Yeah, it's just weird. Anyway, so it happens during the off season when you make those kinds of major changes to technique. That would always happen in the off season. And the very first tournament I entered after the off season, after I'd gone from two hands to one hand, in the middle of the match I reverted to two hands. So a little bit of pressure. And then, so it took years to get used to using a one-handed backhand, but it was never as good. But it did occur to me that when you're making a change like that, what you don't want to do is make a whole lot of other changes at the same time, because you're dealing with a whole lot of things, right?
Oh, gosh, yeah, that sounds like that would be super complicated.
Yeah.
Like your brain is already trying to work out how you go 2 to 1. You wouldn't then want to change your shoes at the same time.
Exactly, and lots of
idea.
Imagine all the patterns that you've developed over time, and Yeah. Let's get off the neuromuscular thing. And so I have this oven, which is a little bit like going from using two hands to one hand, although it's probably the other way around eventually. But it's a big change.
Gotcha.
Okay. It's tricky. It's tricky for lots of different reasons, but mostly it's tricky about just sorting out how to get bread in the fucking thing.
Oh, because it's so much deeper?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And it's been torturous. I've had so many dodgy moments with it. And today, what I did then, I thought, which is fine. I'm going to get used to it. But then I've also decided at the same time that I would vastly increase the hydration of the dough I'm using. So that is a schoolboy error. I've made the dough, isn't it?
No, that is, don't make the materials you work with behave differently when you are trying to negotiate a new environment. Come on.
I know, you should.
Come on.
I know. I mean, I don't want to be hard on myself, but what an idiot. This is a podcast in which two friends talk about the pleasures, absurdities, and imperfections of being human. I'm Simon Ellis.
And I'm Lee Miller. Welcome to Midlifing.
It's funny. I've been watching a little bit of sport. I have it's a bit of a
off the wagon.
A confession, yeah. Mm-hmm. And I realised that I really like watching women's sport.
Have you been watching the World Cup?
I have been, not a lot, but I've definitely looked at a few games, not whole games, but looked, and. I so much prefer watching women play football than watching men play football.
Is it because they're properly skilled and they don't perform stuff?
I think it's the lack of performing stuff, and there's also something about the joy and the frustration and the sadness, which seems to be a little, let's say, three-dimensional.
Okay.
Meaning,
what does that mean?
Meaning, with men, it's just basically aggression. Even when there's joy, it's fist pumping and tension, but it's and there's something about the way they play, which is a little bit how I remember watching sport when I was a kid. It's a little bit amateur, and I don't mean that in the sense of the way they play, not at all. But it's just a little bit less, like it's not the fucking be all end all.
Yeah, they're not on a global stage proving why they are worth the hundreds of thousands of pounds they get paid a week.
Yes, exactly. It's something. It's just a little bit more like it. It seems like it's normal, even though they're playing in front of 80,000 people and all that kind of. But yeah, I like it a lot. How are you? That's enough about me.
I am the very definition of fine.
Does that mean like 6 out of 10? Fine?
I don't know that I could quantify it with a number. I would say that...
You're not great, though.
I'm not great. It's tricky. I'm in the middle of an extended project.
Yes.
Which is going to take me up to the middle of September. And... at the point of recording this, because I think this will probably go out after or close to.
It's a long time in the future, that's for sure.
Yeah, it is. But at the point of recording this, I am about a month away from my deliverable. And I had forgotten how the tension ratchets up literally hour by hour as you get closer to a deadline. Of this magnitude. Because it's not a deadline that is mine. You know when you've got a deadline which is like you've got to submit a chapter or something like that.
Yeah, it's imposed. It's an external deadline, and it's a hard deadline, right?
Yeah, but I think the issue for me is I'm fine with external deadlines and I'm fine with hard deadlines. The issue is that if I decide to miss a deadline that is only implicating me, nobody is damaged except me. I don't hand in the article, it doesn't get published, blah, blah, blah. You know, the issues are mine, they're nobody else's.
Yeah. I mean, it might frustrate the editors a little bit.
I was going to say, the editor might.
Sure,
yeah. And I've never missed a deadline, but you know what I mean? It's the temperature.
You're a complete finisher. Let's remember.
Oh.
Go on. Sorry, I don't want to distract and yeah.
I am the deadline that I am moving towards has multiple other people implicated and involved, both in terms of the running up to and also the potential outcomes thereafter. And
are you the lead of this project?
I suppose I am, in the sense that I am.
So the buck really does truly stop at your doorstep. Jeffrey gives it a sniff, ignores it.
Yeah, he just walks away from it because that's nothing to do with me.
Yeah,
mate.
This
I'm
is
just gonna
yours,
jump
buddy.
On the sofa. That's all yours. You can have that one.
You can have this buck.
Yeah. So when I say I'm fine, I think it's because I am in the middle of something which feels quite churny, and all encompassing.
How do you cope with that understanding that the pressure or the tension is going to, I think you said, ratchet up?
Yeah.
How do you have kind of coping strategies?
I'm really glad you changed the question to how do you cope to do you have coping strategies? Because I think the question was how do you cope? It's like, I don't. Do I have coping strategies? I do. And Bob asked me that same question, or a version of this question.
Oh, so you've done some preparation for this question.
I have, unintentionally, because we were just having a conversation.
Yeah.
Bob said, what have you learnt from the last time you did this that you can apply to this time?
That's a good teacherly question, isn't it?
It is a good teacherly question. It's very handy to have somebody who is able to ask insightful questions while you are sitting in bed eating Nutella on toast. It wasn't Nutella. Just to be clear, it was a non-Nutella.
It was a knockoff.
Hazelnut spread.
It was a Nutella knockoff.
Oh, no. It was an improvement because it was very clear that there was no palm oil in this.
Ooh.
There was, exactly, boo to palm oil. There were organic ingredients. It was a Totnes version of Nutella.
Yeah,
but delicious.
In 2013, I went to the Vatican Museum. You know, the one with the ceiling.
Uh-huh.
What's that? Who's that by?
Michelangelo.
Sistine Chapel. I went with my mother, and as you came out of it's effectively a little, it's basically a strange sort of, I'm going to call it the intestinal tract of a worm, which is a little bit unfair on the Vatican Museum and the Sistine Chapel, but you sort of herded through it like that. And as you came out, there was a massive Nutella stand in the Vatican Museum. So that
selling just jars of Nutella.
Correct. Yeah, it was basically some sort of advertisement for Nutella.
What an odd product placement!
Isn't it?
I don't think of Catholicism and chocolate.
It's I think Catholicism and taking money any way they can. That's got a pretty long history.
Right. So they don't theme their avarice. It's just. Gotcha.
They do not theme their avarice. It's true, and I think that my mother, curiously, she was a very devout person, wasn't so wound up by it. It really got my it raised my I want to say my heckles, just to wind you up. It raised my hackles, and but Mum didn't seem to be concerned about it. But yeah, Nutella's a big thing, and as you know, in Italy. Anyway, question.
Yeah, it was a non-Nutella type spread. Which Bob had bought for me as celebration, because yesterday, at the end of the day, I had completed 2 significant tasks that had been hanging over me over the week, and I said, I want to get these completed. Basically, I wanted to get two drafts done of 2 separate documents.
Oh, this is work stuff.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
And so I was celebrated this morning. Well, I was celebrated last night with a bottle of Prosecco. Thank you. Not a full bottle. I mean, a full bottle came into the house, to be clear. Bob didn't go and buy a half-completed or half-finished bottle of Prosecco of someone. But we didn't finish it. We just had a very abstemious glass.
Wow.
Yeah, just one. It was very nice, and we had it with some pasta, which was also very nice.
You really aren't a complete finisher, are you?
Well, not when it comes to a bottle of Prosecco, even on a Friday night. I knew I had to be up to date talking to you.
Here we are.
And she asked that question, what have you learned? And I think that one of my coping strategies that I have learned is to ask for help sooner and don't think that that's weakness.
Mm. Isn't it amazing that you're a 50-year-old man and you're still learning that thing?
I mean,
I'm not having a go at you, but just generally that idea,
absolutely.
you know.
And I think the thing that has been instructive in the extreme is that when I ask for help, I don't think anybody has ever rolled their eyes at me or gone, oh. I mean, that's not true. There have been moments where particular, let's say, service providers have perhaps forgotten that
they're providing
role,
a service.
Exactly, that their role is to do just that. But they are relatively, actually usually quite low temperature requests, and the kind of like the computer says no response just leaves me going, that's okay, that's not a problem. It doesn't, whereas these are much more high temperature requests that I've been asking for support and help with, and the people turning things around in hours and getting things back to me, and just, it's like, wow, what kindness and generosity. And I know, no, it's what people do for their living, it's their job, but still, I'm not used to, I think, asking for help.
And so
explicitly,
why is it that given that history, which is, as you've just described, no one's ever said or rolled their eyes, etc. Why is it, do you think, it's taken you... Also, I share the problem, by the way. Just I'm not excusing myself from, or not suggesting that I don't have a similar issue with it. But what stopped you learning that from a much younger age?
I think I don't want to be like the one-trick pony or the broken record.
The gender pony.
Exactly. I think it's a bit like those football players who feel that they have to punch the air rather than kiss their compatriots. That their success has to be articulated through a particular display of
aggression, almost.
Yeah. Physical capability. We know you're physically capable. Look at you. You've just done that amazing thing where you kicked a ball. But the point is that they've just shown us in the execution of an incredibly complicated, physically adept act how good they are. They actually could then be quite, joyful in their, in the capacity of their body. And we don't, as you say, we don't see that.
Yeah, well, joy is expressed as it's a weird thing, because I think it's also a release of tension. But anyway, so let's.
But I think it's something. I think it's something along those lines that I think that the scripts that we have for behaviour are limited and limiting.
You mean you mean men?
I suspect it applies to women as well, but I suspect that that it lands on their bodies differently, because I don't know, because I'm not one. I don't think it's just I wouldn't want to say that women are not damaged by the patriarchy. I think they probably are. But yeah, so I think, but again, not trying to be the broken record, but I think it's something about it's taken me this long to realise that not being able to do everything in a complex system doesn't make you a failure or weak. It means that you understand where your skill sets are, and you can lean into those skill sets, and then you can go to experts in attendant fields and go, actually, this is what you do really, really well. Could you do the thing that you do really, really well for me? And then they go, yeah, because I'm really good at that, and I like my job, and I'm going to do the thing really, really well for you. And it's like, oh, look, this is how the world is supposed to work. This is collaboration. And again, how long have I been banging on about collaboration in education?
I think you've
and
written a
generation?
book about it, haven't you?
I think I have. I think I wrote a PhD about it. So it's I'm rolling my own eyes at myself.
Yeah. Do you think that universities seem to be, maybe it's also particularly in the arts, which is the sense that they're much more about individuals doing work, that it's even, I mean, if you think about, if I think about choreography and making dances, even though they were always highly collaborative, there was still a strong sense that there was a choreographer. And maybe it's slightly different. It's just maybe there are two different things going on there. But it just seems that we don't really work in teams much. We have a team, but we don't really work in teams or as teams.
Now, I think that is where... So that's why I'm in a moment of deep learning. Because I'm working in a team that works as a team. But I've come at it from being an academic. So I'm working with a range of colleagues across a range of services. So that I've got technologists, I've got people who work in professional services with a specific background in governance or a background in finance, as well as other academics. So the team is made up of multiple types of skill sets. And actually, they do work as a team. I've worked with, historically, just academics, and they don't. And I think that's probably to do with a lot of the narratives we have about genius loci and this idea of, the singularity of knowledge creation, and the idea that, we do things by ourselves, and that I am the genius and I am the master of this thing. Even though, as you say, particularly in the arts, or not exclusively, but I think probably definitely in the performing arts and in screen-based media, nobody works by themselves, ever.
Yeah, it's Brian Eno has that word genius as opposed to genius. He, just that you're talking about a whole environment where there's a scene going on which creates the possibility for those. I mean, he's talking about a slightly different context from working in teams, but it was trying to negate that idea of the singular, the single genius sort of thing. Anyway, so can I ask you? I like what you're saying. I think, to go back to that more, let's say, meaty subject matter, which is really about the capacity to ask for help. It's, I suspect that the gendered aspect is pretty strong. If you think about mental health issues with young men and the kinds of things we've talked about a long time ago now on this podcast, but it does seem like that there's something about the expression, this is a strong theme of ours, the expression of vulnerability, that somehow asking for help is incriminating you as being someone who's not able to cope or deal with things. Or it's a very odd, I think it's very common, but it just seems very odd. And it makes me sad, basically. I guess that's what's bubbling around for me as we're talking. It saddens me, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's sad making. I think there is no other way, because I think my experience is that it's self-imposed. Or self-imposed isn't fair. It is reinforced and reaffirmed by societal norms.
Yes.
But actually, the lived experience of asking for help very rarely results in somebody saying, fuck off and do it yourself.
Yeah. It struck me at the beginning. You said,
or at least that's my experience.
Yeah, sure. No, I'm with you. I don't think I'm very good at it. I feel a little bit like the thing is, I feel like I'm imposing on people, which is weird because when people ask me for help, I never feel like they're imposing on me. Well, not never. There are occasionally some people I think, well, I feel like you're always lumping stuff onto me, but it's pretty rare, that feeling.
Yeah, it's interesting, that, isn't it? Because I had a conversation with a colleague not long ago, and sort of I was asking for a lot of. I felt like I was asking for a lot of things, and I said, I'm sorry if this is all too much. And she said, well, there are two things that you need to recognise. One, so everything you've asked me to do is within my job description, and the second thing is I do this job because I like it. So I like doing the jobs that you're asking me to do, and that was like, oh, of course.
I mean, it's a different thing, I guess. There's quite a stark difference between asking for help from someone who's there to do that work for you, or not necessarily for you, but as part of a group of people, and asking for help in an emotionally wrought or complex situation where you not feeling like you can cope and going, I really need help here. I think that's.
But you were absolutely right. It's totally different. But if we don't practice in one sphere, we won't have the capacity or the skills to do it in the other, will we?
No. Oh, yeah.
And I was talking to myself then. I wasn't talking to you.
No, it just made me think, though, that we do have I think I agree, although the but is we have a remarkable, we meaning human beings, have a remarkable ability to compartmentalize things. That I behave this particular way at work, and then I behave this particular way when I'm at home, that effectively a different version of myself. Sure, there's overlap, but that we in a different group of friends, I'm like this. And so it's possible for me to imagine that I could be someone at work who's quite good at asking for other people to do things, when, whilst in my personal life, I am not. I don't know if that's the case, but I'm imagining it might be, or it could be.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying. I just think that, it's like a muscle. The more we use it, the stronger it gets, and reaching out for support, we become used to it. Become used to it, become being normalized, that people don't recoil from you or think of you as weak.
Yeah, I suspect I agree, but I'm recoiling at the possibility of agreeing with you too much. You want me to do a pithy sentence to finish the end of this particular conversation.
I mean, if you've got it in the tank, go for it. If not, we'll just fade to black.
Well, I've got something which is totally unrelated, but in that I learned this morning the difference between slasher and splatter movies.
Okay.
And that's something you know, right? I'm assuming you must know. That's not the sort of thing that's your bread and butter.
Well, splatter refers to kind of the Herschel Gordon Lewis landscape. It's quite low, late 60s, very, very heavy on the very, very red. I think you can probably throw some Brian Yuzna films in there, the ones that are really gore heavy. Slashers don't have to necessarily be gore heavy, but they often are. But yeah, so slashers are about the single murderer.
Right, so they're serial killers.
So yeah, people like Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger, those are all versions of slashers. There are some, Sleepaway Camp. There's lots of them.
And the splatter ones I heard was Hostel, and
yeah.
Saw, for example.
Interestingly, I would probably talk about the use of. Oh, that's a genre almost in and of itself. The Saws and the Hostels that merge in the early 2000s, often referred to as bro horror, because because they've got that kind of vibe to them. Particularly the Hostel films, the Eli Roth type stuff, and Cabin in the Woods. No, not Cabin in the Woods. Cabin Fever, so bro horror or torture porn.
Oh, should we just finish this episode now?
On torture porn?
Yeah.